All right, so let's take a look at implementing a couple more components. In particular, some components that will be useful for the upcoming assignment. Right? In your assignment, you'll be asked to create you will be asked to revisit the landing page of our application. Right now, you have a static list of courses, right? We're going to make it so it's a little more interesting. We'll have two versions of that page, right? We'll have a grid version of these courses, and then you'll have a list version or a tabular version of those components. So let's take a look at how we could build perhaps some cards using Bootstrap cards to implement one of those pages. So we'll build a page, a component that renders courses as cards, right, in a grid. We have a two-dimensional grid where each grid will be representing a particular course, right? So let's do that. Let's create yet another component, right? So in here in the components, we'll create what do we call it? Course card, right? And what we'll do is that this is going to give us a chance to play around with the idea that we would like to be able to create components within components within components, right? Components that can nest each other. And so we would like to create a grid of multiple courses where each course in itself will be, again, another component, right? And the outer component is just going to iterate over an array of courses, right? And then import each one of these individual courses as individual cards. So let's implement a single course. Right? I'm going to use this as a cheat sheet. I'm just going to copy this in here. I'm just going to paste it in there. The only thing that we're going to need here is that we're going to have to import always React from React. Right? Once we do that, we have a class called course card. We're still going to extend the React component. We're going to override the render function. In the render function, we're going to return. And we're going to return this one single div. Right, we're going to return this div and close the return function, close the render function, and close the class. There we go. So what we've done here is that we have I'm basically went to Heroku, to Bootstrap, and Bootstrap has this div. I copied it straight from Bootstrap. If you go to Bootstrap and we go to Get Bootstrap and take a look at some of their documentation and look for components, you'll find cards. See that? There's a card there, and card allows you to represent an image, and down below some textual and some title, and maybe a button that allows you to navigate to that particular item. Yes? So I copied this right from here from Bootstrap, and I went back and just pasted in here. Everybody good? Right? The only thing here that is of interest is that instead of using an image, any image, instead what I'm using here is a Pixum photo. Right? This is a service that randomly provides you with images. Right? You just ask it what size you want, right? And it just randomly chooses an image for you. Especially just to see what it would lay out for when I don't actually have an image. If I copy that and I paste it in here somewhere, right? It goes out and there it is, a mountain. If I refresh, every time I refresh, if it detects that it's coming from the same place, it will cache it and always return the same image. You can ask it so that it's always random. The other thing to point out here is that there is a component, there's an attribute here that says styles. See that? Styles. That styles, as opposed to style, it's for you to be able to style that particular element. Not that you would actually do that, right? You would actually use a class instead, right? It's a bad practice to override styles right on a component. Nevertheless, I wanted to point it out. It's notice the curious syntax of double curly brackets there. See that? Right? What this says is that the outer curly brackets says that the following is a JavaScript expression. Okay? The content of the following is a JavaScript expression. Inside, the inner curly bracket says that this is a JSON object. Right? It's a JSON object. And this is the name of the property and then the value of the property of a JSON object. Everybody good? Right? The styles can take a JSON object, right, and then apply these the CSS styles to the element, right, and apply a width, a height, a color, a background color, whatever, right, and then it provides an object-oriented way that you can style your elements as opposed to using raw CSS. Okay, everybody okay? We'll revisit this. We'll instead here we could have instead provided a function. We could have called the function, and then the function can calculate a JSON object on the fly, yes, and decide that this is highlighted as a particular background, depending on whether it's available or not, whatever, right? It could calculate the style on the fly. Here we're having a hard-coded JSON object. Yes? All right, excellent. We have that. Let's now we have exported it. That means that from Whiteboard I could import it. I could import the course card from course card. There it is, and then I can just use it here as if it were an element, an HTML element. See that? What this allows you to do is create these levels of abstraction. Yes, this naming of being able to name an entire set of of details, of divs and images and all that, and wrap it inside of a high-level name that I can then use as if it were an actual element. This is part of the appeal of React, right? Of creating these levels of abstraction, very much like in programming languages, right? In programming languages, you create components, you create a class, you create abstract classes, right? Which allows you to create these levels of abstraction. Same thing here, right? It allows you to have that kind of level of expressiveness that is so common in programming languages. Yes, right? Create these levels of abstraction. Excellent. So we've done that. If we go back and render this somewhere, there it is. Notice that we have a card. We have an image, and then we have the card title underneath, and some link. It's really huge. It's responsive, I believe. Yeah, it's responsive, so it can go down all the way to something small. So expand. It takes up the entire width. By default, a card's behavior is to take up as much space as you give it. Right? That's the default behavior. We can override that, and we will in a minute. But everybody okay? Right, we've created this smaller component and then included it in some higher level component. All right, so we brought cards. We can create a whole bunch of cards one after another. Right, I can use that card multiple times. Right, and if we refresh, we'll see that we have one card, another one underneath, another card. So we have a whole bunch of them. Right, a whole bunch of cards. We could instead give it a size, or we can even create a group of cards. Right? We can say put them inside of a grid, or we can let's see, where is it? Text alignment and navigation, images. Where's groups? Where is it? Grouping, headers, blah, blah, blah. Mix-ins, card groups. So card groups allows you to take a whole bunch of cards and group them together so they can render from left to right, side by side, one next to the other. And the only thing you need to do is just wrap all your cards inside of this other div and give it the class card group. So let's do that. There's our set of cards. So we're going to wrap that inside of another div. There it is. I'm going to indent that. If we go back and re-render it, notice that indeed now they're side by side, right? As many as you want. Obviously, they're not going to fit. Notice that when it reach a particular size, right, they become vertical as opposed to horizontal. Everybody good? Right? And I believe the assignment asks you to do something similar, of creating two versions, right? This grid version of cards, and also a tabular version of these cards. And you want to be able to navigate and toggle between one or the other. Right? And we'll see how we do navigation in a minute, or perhaps tomorrow. All right, so we know how to do a card. Let's go back here. Let's see. No, not that one. So there we go. So we have a whiteboard that might include a course manager. All right, so let's create now a list just to explore how to do that. In particular, what we'd like to be able to do is create a list of modules. Remember that what we're going to show in the assignment is that we would like to be able to, when we select a particular course, a faculty might want to navigate to a course and start editing it, right? Like for instance, it will look something like this. You'll have on the left-hand side, you have all sorts of modules that allow you to navigate to that particular module, and then on the right-hand side, it will display something different depending on the particular module that you're in. Yes? So we'll show how to implement a left-hand side list of modules. Right? So let's do that. Let's see how we can create a list of modules. Let's do that next.